Valve just announced the Steam Controller 2, and you won't get it until 2027. That's nearly a full year away. Most of us thought Valve was done with controllers after the original Steam controller's lukewarm reception back in 2015. But here's the twist: they are doubling down. They're not just refreshing it, they're completely redesigning it from scratch. And according to Valve, it's going to be worth the wait. But here's what's wild. In that same time frame, Sony could release a new PlayStation controller. Microsoft could ship a completely redesigned Xbox controller. Hell, third-party manufacturers could flood the market with 10 different gaming peripherals. Yet Valve is asking us to wait, and they are confident enough to announce it now, even though you can't buy it for 12 months. Why? Because apparently this isn't some rushed afterthought. According to Valve, the Steam Controller 2 is the result of years of research, player feedback, and engineering. They've tested it with thousands of gamers. They've refined every button, every surface, every sensor. So what changed? What makes Valve believe the world actually wants this? That's what we are diving into today, because here's the part nobody's talking about. This controller might actually change how you play games on your PC. Let's rewind to 2015. Valve released the original Steam controller, and it was polarizing. The design was completely different from anything else on the market. Instead of a traditional D-pad and right analog stick, it had dual touchpads. The idea was brilliant in theory. You could customize everything. You could make any game work with any control scheme. But in practice, most gamers found it confusing. The learning curve was steep. The touchpads felt weird. Sure, hardcore enthusiasts loved tinkering with it. But for casual gamers, it just felt unnecessarily complicated. So Valve quietly moved on. The original Steam controller became a footnote in gaming history, a failed experiment that proved the gaming industry works best with traditional layouts. Fast forward to 2026, and Valve's changed its mind. But not because they think the old design was misunderstood. They're not bringing back those touchpads. They're using everything they learned from that experiment to build something completely new. Valve spent over a decade watching how people actually play games. They studied what worked about traditional controllers. They studied what didn't. They built a massive database of user feedback, sensor data, and gameplay metrics. The new Steam Controller 2 is basically the synthesis of all that knowledge. It's not a resurrection of a failed product. It's a new product built on the lessons of the old one. So what's actually different about Steam Controller 2? Let's talk specifications. First, the button layout is now traditional, nothing experimental. You get a D-pad, analog sticks that feel like Xbox controllers, and all the standard buttons you're used to. But here's where Valve got creative. They've added sensor technology that absolutely puts everything else to shame. We're talking about haptic feedback so precise that you can feel individual raindrops in a game. You can sense the difference between running on concrete and running on sand. Some controllers have basic rumble right, on and off. This is a completely different beast. There's also pressure-sensitive triggers. Every trigger has sensors that detect exactly how hard you're pressing, giving developers way more precision for analog inputs. And then there's the software side. Valve's built an artificial intelligence system that learns how you personally prefer to play. The more you use it, the more it adapts. It adjusts sensitivity, predicts your inputs, even offers suggestions for control customizations based on your playstyle. You're getting a controller that learns from you. The battery life is supposedly incredible too, 50 hours on a single charge. Compare that to PlayStation controllers that struggle to hit 10 hours, and you see why gamers are genuinely hyped. This isn't just another controller. It's potentially the most technologically advanced gaming peripheral ever released. Let me paint you a picture. You're playing the new Dragon's Age game with Steam Controller 2. You fire a bow. The controller's haptic feedback lets you feel the string tension as you draw. You hear the bowstring vibrate in the haptic feedback. You release, and you feel the kickback from the shot. Every single game suddenly becomes more immersive because you're getting information through your hands, not just your eyes and ears. Now imagine a racing game. You're drifting around a corner in Forza. The haptics tell you exactly when you're about to lose traction. You feel the tires spinning on different road surfaces. Gravel feels different from asphalt. Wet pavement feels different from dry. Your hands are literally telling you what your eyes are seeing. Or think about a horror game. You're in a dark corridor in Resident Evil. The controller's haptics create this eerie, unsettling feedback that makes your skin crawl. You're not just playing the game, you're feeling the game. For strategy games like Civilization, the pressure-sensitive triggers give you precise control over unit movements and resource management. For fighting games like Street Fighter, the sensors let you execute complex combos with way more precision. And because the controller learns your playstyle, it gets better at predicting what you want to do. The more you play, the smarter it gets. That's the real-world impact of Steam Controller 2. So how does Steam Controller 2 stack up against the competition? PlayStation's DualSense controller popularized haptic feedback back in 2020, but Steam Controller 2 takes it 10 steps further. DualSense haptics are good. Steam Controller 2 haptics are precise enough to simulate individual textures and impacts. Xbox controllers are reliable workhorses, sure, but they are basically the same design they've had for 5 generations. They are comfortable. Yeah, but they're not pushing any boundaries. And third-party manufacturers, they make cheaper knockoffs. None of them have invested the research and development into actually innovating at this level. Here's the reality check. Steam Controller 2 is in a completely different price tier. We don't know the official price yet, but informed estimates suggest it'll cost around the same as DualSense, probably between $60 and $80. That's premium territory. But for that price, you're getting haptic feedback that's objectively more advanced. You're getting AI-powered adaptation. You're getting 50-hour battery life. You're getting pressure-sensitive triggers. And you're getting it from a company that's spent over a decade perfecting the experience. Xbox and PlayStation are refreshing their controllers incrementally. Valve is actually innovating. The question isn't whether Steam Controller 2 is better. It objectively is. The question is whether it's worth the $2,027 wait. Here's what's really interesting about Steam Controller 2. This isn't just a gaming device. This is Valve signaling that they are serious about taking on the gaming console space. Steam Deck already proved that PC gaming doesn't need Windows. It doesn't need a $300 gaming laptop. You can play full AAA games in your hand. Now Valve's saying you also don't need a DualSense or Xbox controller. The Steam Controller 2 means PC gaming has a complete vertically integrated gaming ecosystem, and that's a threat to Sony and Microsoft. Because right now, when you want to play games seriously, you buy a PlayStation or Xbox, partly because the games are exclusive, but also because the ecosystem feels complete. The controller feels like it's made for the hardware. Steam Deck plus Steam Controller 2, that's a complete ecosystem. That changes things. From an industry perspective, this forces everyone else's hand. PlayStation and Xbox have to innovate faster. They have to prove their controllers are worth the loyalty. This is how competition works. One player pushes boundaries, and everyone else has to follow. Valve's also making a bigger statement about PC gaming. For too long, PC gaming was seen as fragmented and chaotic. Now Valve's proving that PC can have the same level of hardware polish as consoles. And if Steam Controller 2 succeeds, we could see a whole new era of PC hardware innovation. So if you're interested in Steam Controller 2, what do you actually need to do right now? Here's the practical stuff. First, make sure your PC or Steam Deck is up to date. We're still months away from launch, so driver updates and firmware improvements are definitely coming. Valve's going to release a bunch of documentation and training materials as we get closer to 2027. Second, think about your game library. Which games will benefit most from those advanced haptics? Immersive experiences like action games, racing sims, and survival horror will shine. Strategy games will get better control precision. Even story-driven games will become more engaging. Consider what you actually play and whether this controller makes sense for you. Third, pay attention to game developer adoption. For Steam Controller 2 to truly shine, developers need to integrate those haptic features into their games. Valve's working with major studios to make this happen, but adoption takes time. Some developers will optimize immediately, others will take months. Fourth, set a reminder for pre-orders. Once Valve opens pre-orders, stock might be limited. Valve's hardware releases tend to have supply constraints. Get in line early if you're serious. And finally, manage your expectations. Valve's claiming this is revolutionary. But every new gaming peripheral comes with a honeymoon period. Some features might feel gimmicky once the novelty wears off. Wait for real reviews from actual gamers before fully committing. So here's the real question. Is the wait actually worth it? If you're a casual gamer who just wants to play some indie games and classic titles, probably not. Standard controllers work fine for those experiences, but if you're someone who cares about hardware quality, who wants the absolute best gaming experience available, who's willing to pay a premium for genuine innovation, then yeah. The Steam Controller 2 could be genuinely transformative. It represents Valve's commitment to pushing PC gaming forward. It shows that the PC gaming ecosystem is mature enough to compete with consoles head-to-head, and it sets a new standard for what gaming hardware can do. Here's what to watch for between now and 2027. Watch the developer adoption. Check out which studios are committing to Steam Controller 2 optimization. Those games will be the ones that showcase what the controller can actually do. Keep an eye on competing announcements. If Sony or Microsoft announces something revolutionary that changes the math, stay updated on reviews from gaming journalists once review units start shipping in late 2026. And if you're serious about PC gaming, start thinking about whether this controller fits your setup. Because in 2027, when that Steam Controller 2 finally launches, the gaming landscape might look completely different. Follow for daily AI news to stay on top of everything coming next in gaming and tech.